Clara sat on the edge of the porch, the autumn wind brushing against her face. It had been a long year since the argument that shattered her relationship with her older brother, Jake. It had started over something trivial, a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Words were exchanged in anger, both of them saying things they didn't mean, and neither one had been willing to apologize first. For months, Clara had lived with the weight of their estrangement. Every holiday, every family gathering, there was an empty space at the table where Jake should have been. She missed him. His laughter, his guidance, and the quiet way he always knew how to calm her down when things got too much. But forgiveness, she realized, wasn't something she could rush. She couldn't expect healing to happen just because time had passed. She had to be willing to take the first step. It was a Sunday afternoon when Jake showed up at her door. He looked different, older, wearier, as though the weight of their separation had taken its toll on him too. Clara's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't know what to say. Can we talk? Jake's voice was soft, hesitant. Clara stepped aside, letting him in, but the silence between them was heavy. She wanted to say something, but the words felt stuck in her throat. Finally, Jake spoke again. "I've been a fool, Clara. I shouldn't have let things go so far. I should have called sooner. I should have apologized. But I thought you'd never want to talk to me again." Clara felt her own throat tighten. The emotions she had buried for so long bubbled to the surface. She had wanted to forgive him, but she had also been hurt by his stubbornness. He hadn't tried to reach out either. "I didn't know how to fix it either," she admitted. "I was waiting for you to come back, to make the first move." Jake nodded, taking a deep breath. "I get it. I should have come sooner. But I'm here now. I know I can't undo what happened, but I want to make things right." Clara stared at him, her heart torn. She wanted to say yes, to open up again, but the fear of being hurt again lingered. Yet, deep down, she knew this was the only way forward. "You hurt me, Jake," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I still love you, and I know that we can fix this. If you're willing to try, I am too." Tears welled up in Jake's eyes as he stepped forward and embraced her. "I'm so sorry, Clara. I've missed you so much." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Clara realized something. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what had happened. It was about choosing to heal, to let go of the anger that had kept them apart. It was about finding the courage to take the first step toward reconciling, even when it seemed impossible. In that moment, Clara knew that their relationship, though scarred, was not beyond repair. It would take time, patience, and effort. But second chances were not just about letting go of the past. They were about embracing the possibility of a new future together. Maria had always been the peacekeeper in her family, the one who soothed tensions, mended wounds, and kept the harmony alive. But there was one thing she couldn't fix: the rift between her mother and her sister, Elena. For years, they hadn't spoken. An argument over something that now seemed so small had driven them apart. And no matter how many times Maria tried to intervene, the pain of betrayal lingered too deeply. Maria's mother, a proud woman, never apologized, believing that the argument had been Elena's fault. Elena, equally proud, had refused to make the first move. Both of them, stubborn in their own ways, had allowed a gap to form, one that neither was willing to bridge. As time passed, Maria found herself caught between them, trying to maintain peace but also feeling the weight of the unresolved conflict. It had been years since she'd seen her sister, and even longer since her mother had spoken about her. Holidays were always awkward, family gatherings strained, as though their entire dynamic had been broken beyond repair. One evening, Maria sat with her mother, watching the sunset from their porch. The quiet between them felt comfortable, but there was an underlying sadness that Maria couldn't ignore. "Do you ever miss her?" Maria asked softly. Her mother didn't answer at first, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Finally, she sighed. "I miss her every day, but I don't know how to reach out anymore. It's been too long." Maria's heart ached for both of them. She knew that forgiveness was the only thing that could heal the wounds they carried, but neither of them seemed ready to offer it. The next day, Maria called Elena. It had been months since they had spoken, but Maria had to try. Elena answered on the second ring. "I don't know if this is a good idea, Maria," Elena said quietly. "I don't think I can go back to that place." "I know," Maria replied gently, "but I think we all need to try. Mom misses you. I miss you. We've all lost so much. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we need to heal. It's not about forgetting the past, but about finding a way forward." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Maria held her breath, praying that Elena would be willing to take the first step. "I'll come over," Elena finally said.
For you.
"For us. But it's going to take time." That evening, when Elena arrived at their mother's house, it was like walking into a room full of unspoken words. The silence was heavy, but when Maria opened the door, she felt a glimmer of hope. Her mother, standing at the kitchen counter, turned slowly, meeting Elena's eyes. There was no anger, no accusation, just a long, painful silence before her mother spoke. "I've missed you, Elena. I've been waiting for you to come back." Elena swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't know how to fix it either. I was so hurt by everything that happened, but I've missed you too." The two women, once estranged, stepped toward each other, the years of distance between them melting away in the warmth of their shared grief. Maria watched, her heart swelling with relief and joy. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a beginning. The first fragile steps toward healing and forgiveness had been taken. Weeks passed, and Clara and Jake began to rebuild their relationship. It wasn't always easy. Some days, it felt like they were still dancing around old wounds, hesitant to confront the pain they'd caused each other. But every conversation brought them closer, and each small moment of understanding helped to chip away at the walls they had built. One afternoon, Clara invited Jake to help her sort through old family photos. As they sat together, flipping through the faded pictures, memories began to resurface their childhood, their shared laughter, and the moments of joy that had once defined their bond. "I remember this day," Jake said, pointing to a picture of the two of them playing in the backyard as kids. "You got mad at me because I took the last cookie and we had the biggest fight. But by the end of the day, we were back to being best friends." Clara laughed softly. "You always did know how to make me laugh, even when I was angry." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the weight of the past finally starting to lift. The photographs weren't just a reminder of their history, they were proof that they had overcome challenges before. They had fought, but they had always come back to each other. "I don't want us to lose that," Clara said quietly. "I don't want to keep holding on to old grudges. We've both made mistakes, but we can move forward. I want to rebuild, Jake. I want to have what we had before, and more." Jake met her gaze, his eyes filled with a mix of guilt and hope. "I've missed you, Clara. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize how important this relationship is. I was too focused on my own pride." Clara smiled softly. "We both were." The healing wasn't instantaneous, and there were moments of tension, but each day felt like a step toward rediscovering the bond they had once shared. Slowly but surely, they learned how to communicate openly, express their feelings, and forgive each other both for the mistakes of the past and the silence that had followed. Their second chance wasn't about forgetting, it was about learning, growing, and finding strength in each other. They began to forge a new chapter in their relationship, one that was more open, more honest, and more forgiving. The real lesson, Clara realized, was that no relationship was perfect. But through the willingness to forgive, to be vulnerable, and to give second chances, even the most broken connections could be mended. Months passed since that evening when Elena and Maria's mother had shared a tearful embrace. The tension in the family had begun to lift, but the road to healing was far from smooth. For Elena and her mother, the act of forgiveness was a delicate process, filled with setbacks and breakthroughs. At first, their conversations were filled with pauses and awkwardness. They both tiptoed around the pain that had festered for years, unwilling to dive too deep into the past. But with time, they began to open up about their feelings, the hurt, the confusion, and the long-standing frustrations that had kept them apart. One afternoon, Maria invited them both to sit together in the garden, where the flowers were blooming brightly in the spring air. It was a peaceful setting, but the weight of the past still lingered. Elena broke the silence first. "Mom, I've been thinking about everything. I know I hurt you too, not just by leaving but by holding on to my anger for so long. I didn't want to see how much I needed you until it felt too late." Her mother's face softened. "I should have apologized first. I let my pride get in the way, and I'm sorry for that. I wanted to fix things, but I didn't know how to admit I was wrong." For a long while, neither of them spoke. But in the quiet moments that followed, Maria could see something shifting between them. The anger, the hurt, they weren't gone, but they were no longer the foundation of their relationship. Instead, there was room for understanding, for rebuilding what had been lost. "Mom, Elena," Maria said softly, her heart full. "I know this isn't easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I believe in you both. I believe in us. We've been through so much, but we can still heal. We can still find our way back." Her words were simple, but they held weight. The family wasn't perfect, and perhaps it would never be the way it once was. But Maria knew that second chances weren't about erasing the past, they were about making room for change, for growth, and for hope. Weeks later, the healing process continued. Elena started to visit more often, staying for dinner and talking about her life. Her mother, who had been hesitant at first, began to open up as well, sharing stories of her own struggles and dreams. They began to laugh together again, slowly finding their rhythm in each other's presence. One day, when Elena was leaving after a family dinner, she paused at the door, turning back to her mother. "I've missed you, Mom," she said quietly. "I know we can never go back to how things were, but maybe we can build something new." Her mother smiled, the years of hurt seeming to melt away in that one moment. "I've missed you too, Elena, and I'm willing to try if you are." As Elena stepped out into the night, Maria watched them from the doorway, her heart full. The road to healing hadn't been easy, but the most beautiful part was that they had chosen to walk it together. Sometimes, the hardest part of forgiveness wasn't just offering it, it was accepting it and believing that there was still hope for the future. In this second chance, the family found not just forgiveness, but a renewed connection that would carry them through whatever came next.